meeting here. I do have a quorum here, Mr. Koretz and Mr. Park, and yours truly, Bill Rosendahl. We have items, colleagues, that we'd like to move through on consent, and then others for public hearing. Item number one.
Item number one is a Rosendahl-Zine motion instructing DOT to monitor collision rates at the intersection of San Vicente Boulevard and Darlington Avenue to measure the effectiveness of the new traffic control devices.
I might add that this is a technical issue within our district there, and on that particular item, I'd like to put that on consent. So sure. Moved by Mr. Koretz, Mr. Parks. So moved.
You wanted to approve as amended?
As amended.
Yeah, there were some technical changes. Thank you.
And then item number 6.
Item number 6 is a DOT report relative to amending the municipal code to allow the department to use city-owned and controlled off-street parking spaces in the existing car share program.
Also, folks, I'd like that on consent to have a motion on that.
Sure.
So moved, Mr. Parks. So moved. Unanimous on item number 6. Items for public hearing. Item number 2. First of all, let me just see. I got cards for item number 2. 1, 2, 3, and a report. And 2 for number 4. Okay. So when we look at item number 2, we have 3 cards. The speakers, do you want to speak before staff or after staff? Any issue on that? We'll have staff come up and explain this first.
Let me read the item.
Okay. Pardon me?
After, because there's one more person coming as well.
Okay, so you want staff to speak?
Okay, item number 2 is a Koretz-Rosendahl motion relative to prohibiting the parking of vehicles that are in excess of 22 feet in length or over 84 inches in height during the hours of 9 a.m. through 3 p.m. on the north side of Santa Monica Boulevard, 500 feet east of Manning Avenue.
Okay, come on up, staff. Let's hear it. And at that point, what I'm going to do, out of respect to Mr. Koretz, is to let you lead the discussion on it as we go with this. But can we explain to staff what we're talking about here? Don't be shy. Come on up.
Good afternoon. Michael May with Department of Transportation. And unfortunately, I am not fully sure why we brought this before you. I believe that Council Member Koretz's staff proposed the resolution, and we're just here to answer any possible questions regarding the resolution itself and the amendment to the resolution or proposed amendment.
Okay. It's all yours, Mr. Koretz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a stretch of Santa Monica Boulevard that this applies to. It's a 10-space section that we're asking to be restricted in terms of commercial vehicles. They have had problems with a variety of kinds of commercial vehicles, making it difficult for regular vehicles, their customers, to come and park, and this was designed to have a fair amount of turnover for that purpose. There are 12 spaces. The last 2 are still allowed to be shared by commercial and passenger vehicles, but the other 10 would be limited just to regular passenger vehicles. It will solve a consistent problem that some smaller businesses have had, that where their primary access is these number of spaces, makes it very difficult for them to do business with the number of and variety of commercial vehicles that have been parking there.
With that in mind, public comment has to happen now. We can't hold up any more. So is this Michelle Grant? Come on up. Matt Geller. Is that Lee Ross?
Yes.
Please, come on up. And if you see the 4th person walk in, just kind of give them the high sign to get up and speak. Okay, we'll just start with you, please.
Oh, I was trying to get to the end of the line.
Oh, I know that. That's why I made you the first. The first shall be last, and the last shall be first.
My name is Matt Geller. I'm with the SoCal Mobile Food Vendors Association. When we saw this, we looked at it as an anti-competitive measure to restrict food trucks in an area where they're being requested. They're being requested in such a way where BET, a large building that has quite a few employees, they don't feel like they have a lot of food options in the area. So they have a truck there every single day. And what you're going to do by doing this is if somebody parks in that one particular spot, you're going to cut them off completely, which if you can look at the Wilshire Boulevard corridor, it's what small business owners have, or actually a commercial real estate owner has done. 7 spots have blocked all of it. So what you're essentially doing is cutting off a great business, BET, which is Los Angeles should be supporting. You're cutting off their access to a variety of foods every day. This is Los Angeles siding with one small business owner against another small business owner, or a group of small business owners, to the detriment of a large business that's just looking for food. I don't think that this has anything to do with public safety. I don't think this has anything to do with anything except an anti-competitive measure.
Thank you for that, I appreciate it. Please, hi.
Hi, my name is Michelle Grantham, Cheese Executive Officer of the Grilled Cheese Truck. We have been going to the BET building since they started inviting trucks there about a year ago, a little bit less. I think we were one of the first trucks to go. Again, to sort of reiterate what Matt was just saying, the whole idea of having alternate food sources come in was started by businesses in the area. It was all, and has been continued to be instrumented by the businesses in the area. I understand that there may be some sort of an amendment to this motion that relates to how these are restricted. This whole idea of this motion has just come across my desk this morning, so I don't really know a lot about it. But I do think that before anything else is explored on this motion, that there needs to be, some sort of impact on how this is going to affect the businesses that are requesting us to be there in the first place. If it is an issue of competition, that's one thing. If it is an issue of safety, that's another. And if there are other issues at hand, it would be great from the standpoint of a small business owner who is there serving the other businesses in the area to have this more elaborated and for us to be able to be part of the conversation, have input in that conversation.
Let me ask you this, if I could. Have you been at the cheese truck in front of the buildings there?
Yes.
How long have you been there?
When we're there for about 2 hours approximately.
2 hours. What
Yeah,
time?
it's within whatever the limit of the parking is there. So it's usually 2 hours.
I see. And where is this business, the brick and mortar business, in relationship to your truck?
That invited us directly in front of us. We're right in front of the building, and the BET is housed within the building.
And people requested you to bring your truck there?
Categorically. As a matter of fact, when I've had to cancel, they get upset.
And do you know their names for the record? Or is that all right?
It's fine. The person who coordinates it is a guy by the name of, his nickname is Red. His full name is Daryl Ganyard. He basically is the occupant services coordinator for BET Networks, and he's the one and deals with the facilities, securities, and operation for the area. And frankly, the first time he approached us about bringing the truck there, he was just starting this, was at the visitation school event that we do over in Westchester, and he searched me out at that event specifically to invite my truck there.
I see. Okay, thank you for that. Please.
Okay. And by the way, Daryl is the one who is on his way here with a couple of representatives from BET, because they were not aware of this motion and were very upset when they heard about it. Because
Your name for the record?
my name is Leah Ross. I'm with the Border Grilled Truck. And the Border Grilled Truck has provided lunch to BET a couple times a month since September 2011. We always obey all health department and parking laws. As Michelle said, we are invited by BET to come to the location. There's only one food truck parked there per day, Monday through Friday. We always park within 200 feet of a restroom, hot running water, soap, hand towels. We have a restroom letter from BET. And we obey all posted parking and instructions and feed the meter appropriately. Also, as a professional courtesy, we park as far away as possible from Cafe Chez Marie. So what we're looking at here is the precedent that could be set and not allowing food trucks to park on the street and conduct lunch business while still obeying all the parking restrictions and health department laws could end up destroying lunch business for us because of the length of the truck is above and beyond what the restrictions are in this, and I would not like to see this happen in other areas around the city. It's not a public safety issue. This motion would definitely restrict business.
Thank you for that. Mr. Kretz.
A few things. First of all, right now, it would make relatively little difference because the trucks are already doing what this restriction would provide. The times I've driven past there, as they have said, they park as far away as possible. So here you have Cafe Chez Marie and a number of small businesses that are all in this area here. There's 2 spaces on the street that would not be restricted, and they've already voluntarily been parking in those 2 spaces. Every time I've driven past, there is a food truck in one of those 2 spaces. So it's already working fine. It would appear to have no impact on them and their one truck, as long as it's one truck. Conceivably, this could become a Tom LaBonge situation like he had near LACMA, where every single space is taken up by food trucks. At that point, these businesses would all ultimately be forced to shut down because they have no parking. Their parking is from these spaces. There's also, I believe, a safety factor in the couple spaces closest to the exit. I think it reduces visibility, and there in particular, I think it's critical. I don't see any downside to this, even for the food trucks that are complaining. I think it may be for future situations that have nothing to do with this, and some sort of precedent that they fear being set, but in terms of the actual impact, the people that are showing up now at the requests of whomever it is would have no impact because they're already operating as if this was in place. As a courtesy, they're parking in one of these 2 spaces. So if they continue doing that, they would have less impact on all the businesses in this area, and everything would work out fine. We would just be putting signage up to keep things essentially as it's functioning now.
I don't know the dialogue. It's up to you, Mr. Kretz, if you want them to respond. If not, I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Parks.
That's fine with me.
So I would just like, if the explanation, is it clarified that it doesn't impact you, or you still have a concern about it impacting you?
Imagine you have 10 spaces. Now there's only 2 spaces you can park. So all they have to do is take out one car to block you, and there's nowhere else you can go. Right now, they can't do that because there's 10 spaces. They don't have 10 cars to block all 10 spaces and take the ticket. But this is an anti-competitive measure, and you're giving them the tools to keep competition out completely. So all it takes is one car now to block a small business owner from providing food to another business owner.
Who is the competition they're blocking?
Well, so they would be blocked. All they would need is to park one employee car in these particular spaces, and then it would be done. That no food truck would ever park there again. They can just get their car there at 11 a.m. and block. So but if it was 10 spaces that are open, of course they wouldn't do that because they want the truck as far away from them as possible. You're providing them with the tool to stunt business completely, and we've seen it happen before on Wilshire, where the Museum Square group parks 7 cars and takes tickets every single day on Wilshire on the 5700 block. It happens every day, 5 days a week in Los Angeles. So we know it's most likely going to happen here.
Mr. Chair, if I could respond to
Sure.
that.
Yeah.
Number one, I don't think there's anyone that's looking to block spaces, or they'd be trying to do that currently. I don't think that's going to happen. But in the case that it does, and there actually is an ongoing problem for you folks, I'm willing to then come back with an amendment making those 2 spaces commercial only, so that a non-commercial truck can't park there, so that it would be you or UPS or whatever. I mean, if there's a UPS truck for 5 minutes, you have to wait 5 minutes. But I don't think you'll find it to be a problem. I think you would find it to be then just as functional as it appears to be now, which seems to be working fine. We're not looking to move you completely out of there. I'm happy to find a way to guarantee that there's a space for a truck or 2. But I think it has been a problem, and not just with food trucks, but with all the commercial trucks that park there. And there is parking behind the building too, which could be used by most of the commercial trucks and possibly even the food trucks.
Please.
I have a couple of questions, and again, like I said, I just hearing about this really today. There's one concern. There was something that you said in your statement, Councilman Koretz, that has me a little bit concerned, because you did reference the idea of this turning into a Wilshire Boulevard situation. And frankly, having been doing this for the last almost 3 years now, when I began, my truck was the 39th of the gourmet food trucks that were out on the road, and the issues and the trend toward whatever was going to be happening on Wilshire was already in play at that point. If something like that was going to happen in the area over by the BET building, I would say to you, more than likely, that would have already begun. And we have not seen that. It's been very, very, quote-unquote, civil, if you want to use that term. My concern is very much along the lines of what happens when those spaces become blocked. Then we're not able to serve the people that are asking us to be there in some fashion, and that it certainly is a question mark within this. And so, and my other concern is, if in fact you are making these only these two spaces commercial optional, so to speak, if I'm understanding this correctly.
For now, but if, as I said, if there's a problem, we'll come back and make them commercial only.
One of my big concerns is, one of the things that you see oftentimes around LA is when there is no considered appropriate parking space available for a delivery vehicle, they tend to do things like park in the center of the street for turn lanes and things like that. They tend to, it tends to encourage poor behavior, so to speak. And by limiting to only these two spaces, and yes, potentially there is that other loading space around the side of the building, but as you said, it doesn't seem to be utilized. By limiting to those two spaces, is there, are we looking at a possibility where we're going to have other traffic and real safety issues that could come as a result of that? And that would be one of my, aside from my own issues of concern having to do with commerce and my business and the business that I'm trying to serve, I'm also, I feel it's a very real concern that by restricting in this fashion, that you may be opening up to a situation where you have people who, in the name of expediency or whatever, are continuing to do behavior that we all see all of the time, that is really, really unsafe.
And if I thought that, I obviously wouldn't be moving this forward. I mean, right now, you generally have all the spaces taken up much of the time. A UPS truck may arrive and all those spaces are taken up. The passenger cars are in the front spaces, a food truck or two are in the back. And I believe in that circumstance, they park in the back. It's a little more inconvenient. I don't think the food trucks are as happy to do that because it's probably not as good for the commercial aspect of it. It's less visible. You'll probably sell less. Otherwise, I'd say just park in the back. But obviously, that doesn't work for you. So we're coming up with something that's a compromise that we think will work for everybody. If you're not looking to put more than two vehicles out there, I think this should work just fine. And if we find that non-commercial vehicles are there much of the time and it's too difficult, then we'll make the change and we'll propose it very quickly.
If the issue is that there are too many commercial vehicles using the area now, but the solution is there'll be two spots for them and it'll be fine, I'm a little confused. Because it seems to me if the two spots are fine, then how is there a problem in the first place with spaces being taken up? There's only ever one truck there a day, Monday through Friday, food truck. So, and I know all the other delivery vehicles come and go, so I'm confused as to what the issue is in the first place.
Well, many of them were taking up space. Not all of them are delivery vehicles either. Sometimes they're moving vehicles as well.
Is that a problem, though, with the building and asking them to have their moving vehicles be in the back in the loading zone, or?
Well, I think that's part of the problem. I think if the building was more cooperative, we probably wouldn't be here today, I suspect. I suspect we could have found ways to solve all these problems otherwise. But since that's not happening, This is my best attempt to come up with a solution that works for everybody.
Councilmember, under 22507, you have the authority to regulate oversized vehicles. And as you've described in your proposed or resolution, it's my understanding of that site that the delivery trucks actually deliver in the back. It's irrelevant whether they've been invited or whether food trucks have been invited at that particular property, since the city owns those parking meters out in front. The fact that you raised the question regarding whether they could park in back, I would say it's up to the person inviting them to find them parking, and if they can provide parking in the back of that building, as opposed to causing a public safety hazard out in front with very, very large vehicles. Given the physical location of that area and the driveway that goes into that area and then projects back onto Santa Monica Boulevard, does present a public safety hazard.
I have the same concern I had when Tom had his issue on Wilshire. It's very difficult because I'm not familiar with the area, and I don't know where the two spots. It would appear to me that I would suggest the DOT and the principals go out and see and walk through this before we approve it, and then come back and have to unchange it. The people that are involved are saying it could create a problem. I don't know how much time that will take, but I don't have a comfort level of looking at this and saying go forward, and I don't have a clue what the impact on businesses and the people that are practically involved are saying it does make an impact. I would hope that DOT could come out there with you and see exactly what those concerns are before we move forward. That would be nice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that makes sense to make the motion a lot more specific before going forward with it.
I agree as well. I think having some clarification to this, it probably makes an enormous amount of sense. And, understanding where the real safety issues are here. I can speak for my truck. We take the idea of people's safety, our customers, pedestrians, and other vehicles as the highest priority. So in any way, shape, or form, if something that we're doing is in some way causing a safety issue, obviously we would want to make sure that we amend our behavior immediately. But in this
Point of
particular case, we
clarification,
don't
Are
know
we
that.
still in public discussion? Have you authorized this overtime into public discussion, or, because we seem to be outside the bounds right now in terms of public discussion? If you gave them a certain period, 2 minutes, have you allowed?
Do we have a card for the fourth person that has come up?
No, she
She's
just
already
arrived.
at the mic.
Just put it on now.
Okay, while she fills that out, Mr. Weezer has joined us, so we're now a committee of 4, and while she's filling it out, she will speak. We just let the free flow happen, but by the nature of Mr. Parks' question and Mr. Careth wanting to respond back, so in that context, it was a normal discussion, which frankly, I like, rather than any other games to play. Do you want to speak, Mr. Sadati, at all about the department and follow up on what was said by one of your staff members? Michael May. Help us understand, especially now that Mr. Weezer has joined us and needs to weigh in on this issue as well.
Thank you, council members. Amir Sadati, Assistant General Manager, LADOT. I think as was mentioned, we're here before you, as Mr. Nagels mentioned, you have the authority to have a resolution per state vehicle code to authorize the changes you need. This department does regulate the parking, but we look at parking as holistic. We don't look at the types of vehicles, of what nature they are. In this particular case, it's an issue of height and length. So if that's what is being voted on, that's something that we would then implement as far as the changes that's being requested, because you have the authority to request the resolution and direct the department to install such signage. Just a point of clarification on the commercial loading, council member, that is, there are some limitations to times. Vehicles of commercial nature can park only for certain time limits, and then they have to also be, if they're in the change of loading and unloading. So our role in this particular case is really, we've been here to direct it to make a change as a resolution. And that's kind of where we are as far as the department. We regulate parking, we enforce parking laws throughout the city, In this particular case, there is enough information as far as a request that's come through the council office on specific safety and other impacted issues from the council office, so we're here to respond to that.
I appreciate that, and the fourth person has filled out her card. It's Marjorie Williams. Yes. Could you state your name for the record and tell us what BET is, too?
Yes, good afternoon. I'm Marjorie Williams. I am here on behalf of BET Networks, which is one of the companies that actually is a tenant in the building, and we definitely are here to speak in opposition.
What is BET?
BET Networks is a media company. We're a subsidiary of Viacom, just like MTV, VH1. It's a cable channel, and we have a local office here that's within that building.
Is that the Black Entertainment Network?
Yes, Council President.
Yeah, I was just trying to get you to say that.
Black Entertainment Television.
And you were contacted? Explain again.
So we actually are highly serviced by the food trucks that come to the building because there's not a lot of other opportunities for us to actually buy food in that area without having to go to the mall. There's 2 malls that are close to that area, and we just received information about this hearing last night at approximately 7:30 p.m. So one of the food trucks contacted someone that is over our facilities that helps organize the rotation of food trucks in front of our building, and that's how we were initially informed about it. Again, it was just last night at approximately 7:30 p.m. I'm in the legal department, so of course we were still there. So that's how we found out about it.
I see. And you're a lawyer?
Yes, I am.
Are there restaurants in the neighborhood, or?
The only restaurant is in the building is Chez Marie. There are a couple of restaurants, maybe within a half a mile, but if you're familiar with that area, it's right near UCLA where there's the big Mormon temple. And so it's just on Santa Monica Boulevard, just between Overland and Beverly Glen. There's not a lot of really any restaurants in that area. Again, you either have to go to the Century City Mall, you have to go into Westwood Village, or you have to go to Westside Pavilion, which is on, I believe it's Pico and Overland.
Okay, I appreciate that. Mr. Rex, you want to inform our colleague, too? We'll take a vote.
Well, first I wanted to ask, you invite the food trucks?
Yes.
Do you have spaces for them in the building?
Well, again, we only have one a day. So far, it's only been, we've limited to one a day so as not to take up so much room on that main street. We understand it's a small area and we're not trying to create such, a safety issue or an obstacle to people that need to either get down to that area or actually come into the building. So we have an organized schedule where, again, our facilities manager will coordinate with the food trucks there. He'll help make sure that they have the access to the restrooms because we understand that there's some sort of requirement that they have to be able to, utilize the restroom. And he coordinates that with the other building that's just across West Home Avenue.
But why don't you provide spaces on site? How many spaces do you have in the building?
Well, unfortunately, we don't have any. All of the parking spaces is below. It's underground parking. So the food trucks probably wouldn't be able to even fit underneath because, again, it's not like an outdoor parking facility. It's below the building.
Okay. And do you want me to explain the...
Yeah, to Mr. Weezer, so that we know the story.
Yeah, there's a strip on Santa Monica Boulevard. It's largely in front of a fairly large office building where BET and I believe other functions are in that building. And then there's a group of small cottages immediately west, and the entirety of parking for those cottages and for their customers are 12 spaces in front of the larger office building. Food trucks have appeared there. Other trucks have been somewhat of a hazard as well, although food trucks probably park there more often. The proposal was to take the 10 most westerly spaces of the 12 and make those non-commercial, and the 2 spaces that are separated from the other 10 by a driveway, make those 2 commercial or passenger. And on an informal basis, After initial problems, it's been working that way. And every time I've driven past there, I've seen a food truck in one of those two spaces. So this would basically largely codify the way things are operating now, but it would prevent it from becoming a sort of haven for too many commercial vehicles, which was starting to be a problem for the cottages, which don't really have other access to parking. I think this ultimately works out as a win-win for everybody. If it doesn't turn out to work for the food trucks that are using the two spaces, we will try to find some way to change that to commercial only in some way that works for them. But for now, this would be the way which I think would resolve everybody's problems.
Do we have a motion to move forward with it? Motion. So moved.
Second.
I'll agree with the motion.
Mr. Chair, I think, to clarify, I think you had some amendments, and those should be read into the
Yes,
record.
and there are two paragraphs of what I believe are technical amendments that I guess need to be read into the record. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City Council, pursuant to California Vehicle Code Section 22507, hereby prohibits the parking of vehicles that are in excess of 22 feet in length or over 84 inches in height during the hours of 9 a.m. through 3 p.m. on the north side of the north frontage road of Santa Monica Boulevard, east of Manning Avenue, between 10681 Santa Monica Boulevard and the west side of the driveway of 10635 Santa Monica Boulevard. Be it further resolved that upon the adoption of this resolution, the Department of Transportation be directed to post signs giving notice of the parking restrictions on the north side of the north frontage road of Santa Monica Boulevard, east of Manning Avenue, between 10681 Santa Monica Boulevard and the west side of the driveway of 10635 Santa Monica Boulevard.
Okay, with those technical amendments, Mr. Parks wants to make a comment.
I would just like to see if DOT, prior to this coming to council, could go out with the business community and look at this and have some personal knowledge about this before it comes to council.
And now we're joined by Mr. Labange.
One more time, Councilmember Parks, what was the request?
I just asked if you could go out there and visit with the business community and the business and look at this in relationship to this motion, so when it gets to council, we'll have DOT's personal assessment of it.
That's fine.
That's fine, okay. Mr. Labange, we could restate the thing, or you could go along with where we're at with Mr. Koretz on a motion that limits parking in a certain street, and if things don't work out, it'll come back to us. It has to do with food trucks.
What kind of parking does it limit?
Food trucks and other...
Overheight vehicles?
It limits food trucks and other commercial vehicles of a specified height and length, 22 feet or over 84 inches, from 10 spaces of 12 that are in front of a commercial building that was described.
Right, and where is it near in relationship to the tri-light of the traffic signal? Is the traffic signal clear? That's safety is a big issue.
Yes.
Yeah, there isn't a signal
It's
nearby.
clear. If you look at, there's a signal right on West Home, and it's just past that signal, so.
On the far side?
Yes.
Right, so it worked out.
It's not an issue.
Yeah, it's similar to what, who's from the engineering department of transportation? Anybody here? Just ask a quick question. Yeah, there's a situation of safety we have out on Wilshire Boulevard. Mr. Chair, give me a minute. We're looking to try to create a pilot program there to try to get the mass of overheight vehicles onto the side streets. You familiar with that motion?
I believe we're working with your office, and that motion was
I want to work
introduced.
with everybody to try to resolve the issue, because I think safety is a real concern. As if there was a bunch of FedEx trucks there, or United Parcel, or city trucks, I think it would be an impact, so.
Well, if I may, the thing to keep in mind, it's not even on the main road. It actually sits off from Santa Monica Boulevard. So there's an island.
But I count on the councilman of the district to know as the best representative for the city, as I would in anybody else. But I think it makes sense if it's recommended by Mr. Koretz, so that's what I would support.
At this point, Mr. Labange, the four of us have agreed to go forward with it, with the stipulation that Mr. Park said that DOT would go out there, look at it, talk to businesses, and understand the situation, to report back before council.
Thank you.
So we have a motion on this, and second, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous, and it will go to council with the instructions of DOT going out there and doing it. Thank you all for this. Okay. Item number 3.
Item number 3 is a Parks Perry motion instructing DOT to work with the Expo Metroline Construction Authority on the feasibility of installing additional safety measures at the intersection of Exposition, Gramercy, and Rodeo.
Staff, is there any comment on this, or Mr. Parks, any comment that you'd like?
No, I think it's self-explanatory. It's an item that I think was maybe overlooked on the original planning, but that crossover intersection, Rodeo to Exposition, across the tracks, appears that we need some, at least from the perception of the public, some additional security. So that's what we asked to work with MT or Expo line.
Okay, and you're nodding your head on that. Do you have a motion to move on that?
So moved.
So moved. Second, Mr. Weezer? Okay, unanimously approved by the committee of the council. That is item number 3. Item number 4.
Item number 4 is the Board of Tax Cap Commissioners Report relative to the reassignment of the San Gabriel Transit Incorporated City Cab franchise to LA City Cab.
Okay, we have 6 public comment cards. We'll have staff report first. Please listen to it, and then obviously we can interact with that as well. There might be more cards coming up as well. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Tom Drischler, Department of Transportation. The item before you requests the approval of a draft ordinance to allow San Gabriel Transit, doing business as City Cab, to reassign its company structure into a membership organization and limited liability corporation to be called Los Angeles City Cab LLC, DBA City Cab. Now, such a change is allowed under California law. And such a structure and name change must be approved by the City Council by ordinance. Through this reassignment, City Cab would become a membership organization similar to the other 8 franchise taxi cab companies in Los Angeles. This change affects the ownership structure, but not the service delivery terms of City Cab's existing franchise. Therefore, it does not involve any change to the terms and conditions of City Cab's franchise that has been authorized through calendar year 2015. Here are some of the aspects of the restructuring that may or may not affect the company and the city. No terms or conditions of the franchise ordinance will be changed other than the grantee name and the addition of the membership regulations similar to those in all other taxicab franchise ordinances. And this includes its obligations under the Green Taxi Program to field cleaner and more fuel-efficient vehicles. Current drivers for City Cab, as well as drivers permitted with other Los Angeles franchise companies and qualified non-drivers, will be given the opportunity to purchase memberships or shares in Los Angeles City Cab LLC. The new organization will have 170 memberships or shares, and each share will entitle the owner to 1 vote as a member. Like all other franchise membership organizations, no one individual will be allowed to own more than 5% of the shares. The changeover to a fully distributed ownership of shares shall be completed by the end of December 2015. To deter instability in the Los Angeles market for taxicab shares, San Gabriel Transit will be limited to a maximum transfer of its vehicle authorities to shares to no more than 50% within a 12-month period. No changes in the current City Cab vehicle identification and color scheme will be required. No changes will be required for driver permits issued under the name of City Cab. A representation agreement has been approved between the department, the city attorney, and the new membership organization, which both indemnifies the city and details the responsibility of Los Angeles City Cab LLC for the assets and liabilities of San Gabriel Transit, Inc. The current faithful performance bond and insurance policy for San Gabriel Transit will be required to be reissued under the name of Los Angeles City Cab LLC.
Colleagues, you want to speak now, or should we take public comment? Public comment?
Yes,
Okay, fine.
1 minute public comment, it's late.
Complicated issue. It's a complicated issue. How many?
We don't have, well, we have 3, and then we have additional 1, 2,
Whatever you think, Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
4, 5, 6.
That's good. Okay, whatever.
Okay, all right, 2 minutes, please, and I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Kress for 1 second while I go to the little men's room down there. But Tilham, come on up. Tilham, Tilahun, or M. Sorry about the mispronunciation, sir. Shamilis Tadzarana Michael, oh, forgive me again, and Hamad Khan, the three of you, please, and I will be right back.
Yes, sir.
My name is Tilahun. I'm from United and United San Fernando taxi cab company. Most of the time, I work in San Fernando Valley, and at the same time in the city of Los Angeles for over 27 years. I'm opposing the change that the City Cab or San Gabriel Transit is proposing right now. We are on a franchise. On 2010, it was extended for the next 5 years with a conditional, a green taxi. Now, they could have been proposed at that time, they are going to change their status, restructuring. Now, by doing that, how do I get there? I will be affected. I will be affected, to tell you, I have 2 taxis for the last 27 years I produced. To be complied with the green taxi, I sold 1. And I bought with that the 1 green taxi. But they are now in that area. San Fernando Valley is in area A is only for 2 cab companies, City Cab and the United San Fernando. Now, by you allowing, if he go through this, he will be very strong financially, and we will be wiped out. It is capital workers anywhere, in the taxi business especially. By him passing the liability to individuals, he will be off from the responsibility, and he used that money to operate on a black car.
Thank you very much, sir. Please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good afternoon, Council. My name is Shimadis Tadessa Mikael. I am a LATWA member and United Independent Cab driver. I've been driving in the city of Los Angeles for the last 13, 14 years. My objection to the transition from one individual ownership to what they call a membership company, I'm not strictly against the individuals owning their own taxi. I am strictly opposing the method that it is transferring. These licenses have been given to one individual for the last 10 years. He had been benefiting out of it for the last 10 years. Now he's transferring the responsibility to these unknowing individuals, all the responsibilities. Last time when we protested here, give us the medallion so that we can change to green cars, they were the ones who were spearheading against the interest of individual drivers. Now they coming to profit by selling these licenses, which they were given for free the last 10 years. Why are they allowed to profit out of it? Why not the city give the licenses to the 170 drivers who have been servicing the city of Los Angeles for the last 10 years? And I see also there is the way they are going to sell it. They are the ones who are selling it. They are the ones who are going to manage it. They are the ones going to be the slave owners of the drivers, actually. You know, the way I read their proposal, the drivers are going to be just cash makers for these individuals. And the San Gabriel Valley Transit is changing its name to MTS Management, the way I read it, although it doesn't clarify what MTS is.
Thank you very
but
much.
they-
Appreciate it, sir.
Okay.
Please.
Yeah, good afternoon, council members. Hamid Khan with the LA Taxi Workers Alliance. We strongly urge you to reject this proposal on many grounds. First of all, to clarify this thing, this has not been approved by the Taxi Cab Commission. The commission had a quorum. They gave a tentative approval in November of last year. In 2012, February of this month, there were 3 members of the commission. One of them abstained from voting because she had very serious questions about this whole deal. So it has not had a final approval from the Taxi Cab Commission. Secondly, the question that my colleague is raising over here, that is this a gift that the city is giving to this company? There are about 166 or 170 permits at stake at a cost of an average of $75,000 to $90,000. That's about $15 million at stake. Secondly, the issue is, who is MTS Management? In their business plan, CityCab says they're going to hand over the management to MTS Management. Is there conflict of interest? Who is MTS Management? Are there current managers involved in MTS Management as well? We've seen similar issues of conflict of interest at Yellow Cab with Van Ness Management and crossover into running the company, so that creates another issue as well. Then the business plan says that it is giving rewarding the hardworking drivers. We want to reward hardworking drivers, but then the business plan also says that non-drivers can have 5% of these shares, which means 8 permit per non-driver. So what you're going to do is create monopolies and mini fleets. So that creates an issue by itself as well. Lastly, there's an open litigation against Checker Cab to what is being proposed in the plan over here. Basically what they're saying is that one cab, one vote. Right now, Checker Cab is being sued because of the monopoly issue, because of the fleets, because if somebody owns 20 cabs, they have 20 votes. So that really silences a single car owner. So I think this is really rife with problems. These answers, and we are really looking at you as custodians of public interest. This is a public utility. This is not their own investment. This is a public utility. You are the custodians of this public utility, and you have to ask these questions from these people. And we want you to reject this proposal.
As a point of clarification, I also advised the Board of Commissioners at Transportation, and the board vote there was simply advisory. It's not required to vote on this. There were 3 members present at the last meeting when this finally was able to be resolved. 2 voted to affirm the contract, 1 abstained, but there was no reason to vote. That would be no reason. They're strictly advisory in this issue. There was no reason. You don't have to wait for them to reach any type of decision. It's your choice.
Appreciate that very much. Okay, now we have a stack of a bunch of more here. Is it VRESALYANDIAN? Come on up. Samuel Gregorian. Okay, Martin Schatz. Thank you very much for that, and I apologize again for that. And then I have a SAHAMYON, last name is ARMEN. Great, okay. We'll start with you, last one, first one up. Go for it.
Yes, hi, my name is Armen Sahakian. I'm a taxi driver for CityCab. I've been working with CityCab about 8 years. We have a great management, very strict, at the meantime very friendly. And about a couple of months ago on Channel 11 Fox News, I've heard this conversation that there's a first 3 stressful jobs. First one is the politicians, second one is police officers, and the third one is the cab drivers. So really, cab driving is a very stressful job and very hard job. Today, the city cab is trying to...
This is the worst. I agree with you.
Yeah, today, city cab is making opportunity to suffering, at the meantime, to be honored, to have a taxi, which is a dream of about 20 drivers that they present here, and another 65 they are waiting outside. So we're here to support, to get the permission for the city cab to be sold, so we can make our dream come true. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Please. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. My name is Viraj Almandian. I'm president of Beverly Hills Cab Company. I'm here to connect one happiness to another. It's been proven that happy cow produces more milk. And therefore, in ranches these days, they play music for cows. And it's proven they produce more milk. So this is what they're going to do. Based on my experience, I've been driver in this city 22 years. Now I'm as a president talking to you. Owner-operators are happier drivers than lease drivers. There's nothing against lease drivers. We have hundreds of them. They're all hard workers. But based on my experience, owner-operator gives better service to the public. This is what all we want, to give a best service to the public. And this is what they're trying to do, to make their lease drivers become an owner-operator. Therefore, they can provide better service for the people. And that's all I have to say. So I'm all supporting their cause, and I'm all for it.
Good. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate your comments. Sir.
Okay, appreciate it.
Gentlemen, this is first time that we have an
For the record,
opportunity.
please.
Samuel Gregorian, I'm sorry, city
okay.
cab driver 7177. This is actually first time that we have opportunity to purchase the cab and be behalf of the company, like be part of the company. But I believe most of the companies, they have already that option, and drivers that they're owners. And the other question is like regarding the service, that some company going to be wiped out. It's not going to be because we're getting our customers by the customer service. So as good as we can customer service, the people are going to, like, we're going to get more business, and we want to have by our own business. This is the main question. So I think this is the opportunity we can put like some whatever amount and be an ownership.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Councilman. My name is Martin Shatakian, President of San Gabriel Transit Incorporated, DBA City Cab. I've been a cab driver in the city of Los Angeles for 9 years, and I managed the other taxi franchisee company in the past. Currently, I'm managing City Cab. And I appear before you today and in support of reassignment of the franchise from San Gabriel Transit Incorporated DBA City Cab to LA City Cab LLC, doing business as City Cab. The proposed restructure of the current City Cab operations will level that playing field for everybody. And by converting to a membership organization, all 9 franchisee taxi companies in the city will now have similar owner-operator business models, and drivers of City Cab will be on equal footing with the drivers of the other franchisees. By affording drivers and lease drivers the opportunity of owning their own taxi cabs, not only does the taxi riding public benefit, but drivers benefit also. As owner-operators, drivers of City Cab will have a vested economic incentive to provide even better service to riding public. Current City Cab drivers, if this change is approved by you, current City Cab drivers will have the first opportunity to purchase the taxi cabs that they're driving currently. And conversion to a membership organization will allow drivers to have a voice in the direction of the company. Decisions will be made by a board of directors comprised of cab drivers and owners. All parties will share equally in leadership and decision-making, and the same experienced management team of a current City Cab operations will be in place to ensure quality service. Overall, this is a win-win situation. We urge your support of this reassignment of the franchise to LA City Cab LLC. And we have in attendance today drivers from City Cab and other taxi cab company managers present also who strongly support the restructure of City Cab, and I want to ask them to just stand up for a second. Thank you, gentlemen.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Just re-articulate the men stood up for what reason?
To support the reassignment of San Gabriel Transit Incorporated DBA City Cab franchise to LA City Cab LLC.
Thank you. Thank you. We have 3 more cards here. Is this Martin, M-A-N-U-K-Y-A-N? Again, I apologize. Bill Rouse, William Rouse, and Saras Tor Agaran. Did I say that right? That's Ararcelyan from City Cabs. Apologize again, my man, for that. Is there anybody else who hasn't filled out a card who wants to fill out a card? All right, these will then be the last three public comments cards. Sir.
Good afternoon, council members. Martin Manukian from Yellow Cap. There was a comment here, a couple of them, they said they oppose. Obviously, they have cabs for several years. I assume they're happy that they are not selling. And I'm here to support City Cap, and give me a couple of seconds to explain why. I was immigrated here to this country in 1991. 1992 started driving a LA taxi currently, which is Yellow Cab. There was an opportunity in 1993, LA taxi converted to Yellow Cab. Everybody's, whoever was driving at the time, all the drivers' dream was to have a chance to buy their own cab. So I was one of them. I bought one, and then second, and then third. So I could imagine if I keep driving a cab up to now being a lease driver. Although I want to indicate that back then we used to pay $600 up to $650 when we purchased the cab. Our basically payment was way less than it was. It was about $500. So lease driver becoming an owner, they are the first interested party to keep their cars cleaner, shinier, to give an excellent business in order to grow up their business as being a small business owners. And also, there's a lot of transparency. They elect their own board members. They elect their own president. They have direct communications with them. And more importantly, their first important goal today is change it to the hybrid in order to save more gasoline, because it's way too expensive, as you know, and then our city will become more greener than it is. And I think that's the best opportunity for all the drivers. Why not? And everyone I know outside, they will keep asking me if they are going to get this chance. And I hope you can do that. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Sir.
Honorable members of the council, good afternoon. William Rouse, General Manager of Yellow Cab and United Checker Cab. Martin's story in terms of coming here as an immigrant with basically very little to his name, building himself slowly through hard work within a taxi cab company, within a membership organization, into the middle class, first by working as a lease driver, eventually by buying one cab, and many of our members buying a second cab and a third cab. That story in terms of using this industry to pull oneself into the middle class in relatively short order has been repeated hundreds and hundreds of times in our organization. And today, with 8 out of the 9 taxi franchisees, the drivers can do exactly that. They can start out as a lease driver, they can eventually buy a share within the organization, and eventually build themselves into the middle class. And once they do that, they can either stay within the organization, or many of our members have left and bought other businesses, liquor stores, laundromats, other businesses, and you name it, they've done it. And so a vote no today means that this council is saying to only the drivers of City Cab that you will not have that opportunity to buy your into the taxi organization, and that you are relegated to lease driver status for the foreseeable future. And a vote yes today means that all the drivers of the City Cab will have the same opportunity, not obligation, opportunity to have an equity stake in the organization and help to better their lives and the opportunities for their families. So I urge you to vote yes on the proposal. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for your comments as well. Good afternoon.
Hi, everybody. My name is Sarkis. I'm a driver, City Cab. I'm driving almost 17 years in the taxi business. My point to come to be separation and from management come to be ownership. We have our taxi. It's not problem with the owners, management, only we have to have a really our business and enjoy, like I said, give more milk, have a happy, and we here not to split the furniture like with the United, like husband and wife. We need to get the business, take care of our business, and enjoy how nice. I was an owner before taxi. Now I want to have my taxi over here. I drive in here, city cab like 7-8 years. So if possible, why don't have the same business over here, same ownership over here, and have a more private business like and watch our business like private and take care of the people more, much better business and good point. So we have nothing against the United. Always be working in Valley. And still working in Valley, if they point to split the business, take care of the business from them, it's just going on the same. If they have a power, they working an all time and working now and working after us. So nothing gonna be changed if we come to be owner our taxi. So only that has our business. 200 people, minimum gonna have like a small business and take care of ourselves. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you very much for your comments as well, sir. Unless there's another public card, the public hearing part of this meeting is now closed. Mr. Koretz.
Yeah, I have a number of questions. How does this compare to the other taxi companies? I understand they all use this model except for this one that's now changing. When did they change, and what happened when they changed? Is it very different than what they're proposing now for this one?
Pretty much all the other companies had...
For the record.
Oh, Tom Drischler, LADOT. Pretty much all the companies had converted to some form of membership organization by the late 1990s. There were a couple of companies that went through some changes that were somewhat similar to this process. One was Yellow Cab. The other was LA Checker Cab, and that was back in, let's see, Yellow was in about 98.
Right, and before that, it was LA Taxi, Janine Brands of staff.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you. In the early 1990s, there was LA Taxi doing business and United Checker Cab that switched to memberships. Before that, in 1970s, that's when you had a lot of the associations, United Independent Taxi Drivers. We had Beverly Hills Cab and LA Checker Cab. They worked under a separate secondary membership umbrella with the Professional Drivers Association, and then when we refranchised last time, they had to come through as a membership right on top, if you would put it that way. So in the 70s, we got memberships beginning then. Most of them then converted in the early 90s, and then Yellow Cab, finally in 1998, also became a membership organization. So everybody was that for over a decade.
But by 2001, all of the companies were membership organizations except for City Cab. So that was eight out of 9.
Why didn't the City Cab do this previously?
Well, when they bid on the franchise originally in the year 2000, they just came in as an S corporation that was wholly owned by one individual, and that was permissible under state law, and they were allowed to bid, and they won the bid.
And under the terms of the franchise agreement, they are allowed to restructure their company as long as they follow state law. It's actually built into the franchise agreement, which is why the others were allowed to do it as well.
And what's the impact on the drivers, both potentially positive and negative? What happens for the drivers that have the money to buy a cab, and what happens to a driver that doesn't have the money to participate in the process? They still get to drive.
Well, yes. Well, the drivers for City Cab that want to invest and can find, maybe they have the money, maybe they have to work out some financial arrangements, but they can become, real stakeholders in the company. They own a piece of the pie, and they also have a voice in the way the company is run, the management decisions. Now, in this case, there will be a management company, but that is subject to, ongoing approval by the membership. There's management companies that run the bulk of the operations at some of the other companies, including Yellow Cab and Bell Cab Company and United Checker, which, based on our assessments, are run pretty well.
So what happens to drivers that don't have access to the money and can't somehow wind up as part of the deal? Are they still employed? What happens
Everything
to them?
stays as is. They remain a lease driver.
Well,
That's their desire.
currently all of them are lease drivers.
Right.
If for whatever reason they do not opt in to becoming shareholders, then they would continue to be lease drivers.
But the option is still there for them. We're not.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, sir.
We're not anticipating a bunch of people being laid off as
Oh,
a
no.
result of not having the money to do this.
No.
And who gets the franchise fee? Does the city benefit in any way from this? Does this help with our revenue?
No, the city cab continues to pay franchise fees because nothing in the franchise ordinance itself changes. We will make a small amount of money in the transfer of the ownerships, but those are basically fees for services and they're cost recovery items for us.
And it was mentioned that there were 3 members of the commission and only 2 of them voted for it. What were the concerns of the commissioner that didn't vote for this proposal?
I can't speak for her, sir. She abstained.
Did she not express objections or concerns?
She didn't object or go for it. She just abstained from voting.
Didn't ask questions, didn't give any reason why?
She did not give a reason for her abstention. I will remind you that the last year or so, we've had ongoing problems getting quorums with the Board of Tax Cap Commissioners.
Why is that?
Well, you'd have to ask them, sir. They just haven't been showing up. And
How many commissioners are there now?
there are 5.
There are 5?
Well, actually, currently there's 4 because one has resigned, and I understand
There's
there's a
4 now?
vacancy at this time.
There's 4 of them now?
Yes. This item was originally came to the board as tentative approval for them. It was scheduled for October. There was no quorum. Came back in November. It was approved 3-0 tentatively. It came back for final in December, but there was no quorum. It came back in January, and it was actually heard, and then we lost the quorum, and there was no vote. So finally, it came back in February, and there was only 3 members present, and so 2 approved and 1 abstained.
And now you know why they're advisory.
Right. But the other one didn't give us any guidance about what issues would be controversial or what concerns there would be.
I can't speak for that Commissioner, sir. Nothing comes to mind.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask the general manager of the department to come up for 1 second. I'd like to get a report back, if I could, from the mayor on this, or from yourself about filling that full commission, and for having meetings that obviously can get business done. Otherwise, my suggestion would be to disband this commission if it's not going to make it effective. I'd like you to pass that message on. I remember when Joe Chiswick was running it, he showed up at meetings and things made, the clocks worked and whatever, but I'd like to get some appreciation and report back at our next meeting how the mayor is dealing with this issue and filling the commission.
Yeah, of course.
Thank you so much for that. Mr. Labange.
No, I just wanted to ask, you mentioned some of the old cab companies, okay? You know where the taxi bar is? The third.
My days of going to bars are long behind me, sir.
No, but you're a taxi man. The third Bixel. No, third and, what's the street right there, Jose? What's the street on 3rd Street where Contreras High School, Miguel Contreras High School?
Bowdry or Bixel?
I think it's
Yeah, I think that
Bixel.
is
Lucas.
Bixel.
3rd and Lucas. Why is the taxi bar there? Man, you gotta know, that's where the taxis were, the yellow cab. Right there. Next time you're out on 3rd Street, north side, don't stop.
I'll make a point.
But let me ask a question. What we have here is a situation of a reorganization that the city attorney says is within the contract, and the department supports this. Is that correct?
Yes.
You recommend approval. I do second Mr. Rosendal's comments about, and we do appreciate citizen activism, but when they're not meeting, then we need to know about it, so we make sure we ask the mayor, whomever appoints, to get people who can meet, because it's important for everybody, and the great democratic process. That being said, what do we do to help people? There's going to be someone who's not going to like to vote today and someone's going to like to vote today. But when they don't like to vote, what can you do to help people? And I think it's a great American success story. As I look at the faces of the people who are here. The only thing, I do have a real serious complaint at Prospect in Vermont. You know what my complaint is at Prospect in Vermont?
I do indeed, sir.
What are they?
Well, there's untidiness there.
Tidiness. That's a nice way to put
However,
it. Yeah.
we've looked into it very carefully,
Right.
and the primary cause of problems there are from homeless folks and not from the
Absolutely, but
taxpayers.
then not all homeless folks buy all these Marlboros, and a lot of times Marlboros are sitting in the gutter. So I just want to, that's the biggest thing, you know, so everybody should pick up after themselves. But there is a unfortunate situation there. But you recommend this reorganization is important.
Yes, it gives a significant number of drivers at CityCab the opportunity to have a share in the business, just like the drivers at all the other companies.
Thank you.
Mr. Parks. Mr. Weezer.
Just briefly, I think this is a step in the right direction. It's leveling the playing field and giving people options, and at least from the city perspective, allowing us to have the one model for all the fleets, which makes sense, so we could treat everyone the same, right? So it makes sense. But when somebody wants to go from a lease to the option to purchase their vehicle, generally, what are our policies on moving towards hybrid cars or more environmentally friendly cars?
Well, we have an absolute policy, and that was part of when we refranchised, that we went to a green taxi program. 80% of all taxi cabs in every fleet, and CityCab has this requirement now, and it will continue, 80% of the non-wheelchair exempt vehicles must be green within 5 years. We're ahead of schedule. We're more than 25% there.
Oh, good.
Okay, we will have more than 1,703 vehicles green, and I'm talking Priuses and Toyota Camry hybrids and any CNG vehicle. You give me a SULEV hybrid or CNG or other type of alternative fuel, and they're coming in as cabs.
So if they purchase a new vehicle, they would fall under the requirement? No.
Well, any vehicle that's placed into service as a taxi cab, and each year they have to go higher and higher within the standards.
Okay, and if they stay as leased, what does that mean?
No, right now for like city
Well,
cab.
that's for the owners of the vehicles. The lease drivers are still lease drivers.
Yeah. But it doesn't impact that one way or another.
No, so the
We're
new
moving
member would
towards
come
that.
in.
We're moving towards the...
Exactly. So
green
like for
cars.
city cab,
Gotcha.
a member would come in, they may buy the vehicle that's in place right now, and when it's time to be replaced, they may replace it with green. But that organization will get greener and greener each year, just as every other company. It's all the same.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, we're very proud of that and making that happen in years past. It's a great big plus, and I applaud our mayor and all my council colleagues for moving in that direction. We are the greenest cab company, I think, in the country at this point.
We're getting there, sir, yes.
This entity is going to be managed by MTS Management? That's my understanding. Who are they? What are they? How does this all work?
Well, the company could answer that better than us. It's their business how they want to set that up. It's my understanding that they'll draw upon their current management team to staff that management company. But as a membership organization, the members will have the say where, farther on down the line, once the membership shares have all been sold, as to what management company they want. At least in the interim, what we'll have is a continuity in management of the company, which we have found to be good. Frankly, they're running the company pretty well. Their response times are good. They've continued to get approval from the board in terms of their performances and their service response times over the last year, including 2010, which was the last full year that we did the evaluations.
Is there someone here with the company that can better answer the question? Or you gave a pretty good answer, but I just thought perhaps if you thought it would be better to hear
I believe there
from
is,
the
sir.
company. And if you could tell us how this will all be structured and run, that would be great.
I'll try. I'm Sheldon Baker, and I'm an attorney. I represent San Gabriel Transit.
MTS is a California corporation. It will have the same leadership management group that has guided City Cab for the last 11 years. Done that way so there's no decrease in the quality of service. The business plan that's part of the package submitted lays out all the services very clearly that MTS will provide and all the procedures. But basically, they're going to have all the dispatch services, accounting services. They'll enforce the policies, the maintenance records, and all the other records that are required. They'll maintain all of those. They'll place the insurance, among other things. That's who MTS is. We believe MTS is going to provide similar type services to other entities, which allows the new LLC operating company to concentrate just on its direct operations, its principal core business, which is providing excellent cab service to the riders in the city of Los Angeles. And it frees them from all the other management concerns. That's who MTS is.
Mr. Labange. Just a question on the greening. I think is New York City all smaller cabs? Now, Crown Victorias are going out of manufacturing, correct?
Yes.
Primarily, Crown Victoria is the fleet for Los Angeles, correct? But what are we transferring to?
Well, we're putting in a lot of Priuses now.
Yeah, the majority of the green vehicles have been Priuses, Toyota Camrys, Ford Escapes, and Mariners.
And what do customers say? I mean, is there enough room?
Yeah, most of them have cameras now. We allowed cameras last year, so in lieu of a safety shield, which actually could prevent your leg length in a Crown Vic, they have cameras in many of these. They can have shield or camera. So the
You mean like
size,
a camera you see on cable TV? And
yeah, it's up there on the mirror and it sees the whole
but
vehicle.
for a show that they have on cable that talks cash cab?
That would be fun, yeah, cash cab.
Yeah, maybe there should be one that would go to benefit people, so think about that. All right, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Rosendahl,
Any
on
other
that.
comments from any of my colleagues? Do we have a motion to move this forward? So moved. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, unanimous. We'll move forward with it. Forthwith with this to council.
What'd you say, 311, 411?
Thank you all for coming for public comment on all sides of this issue. Appreciate it. Okay, we're now down to item number 5.
Item number 5 is a DOT report relative to the City of Los Angeles Public Car Share Program request for proposals.
Okay, does anybody want to talk about that? Come on up real quick, my man, and give us a quick update on that.
Good afternoon. Mr. Chairman, with your permission, I would like to just provide a broad overview of car sharing in the country so that I can put the RFP in the context of what's going on. We've been before you on 3 different separate occasions to provide you with updates in terms of the progress of our pilot program. It's taken a long time, but we are ready to move on now with a major RFP. Now, as of January 1st, 2011, there were 27 cities throughout the country that had car share programs for a total of 600,000 members. A recent study revealed that estimates are that by 2016 there will be 4.4 million people that will be members of car share companies. Now, currently, car share is evolving on 2 separate tracks in this country. One is, of course, the efforts of local governments in terms of encouraging car sharing, and the other one is just what's going on in the private sector. Speaking of the role of the government, Ms. Sarah Potts from the Clinton Climate Foundation is here. I would like to thank her for the role that she has played in helping us along with this RFP on behalf of the mayor's office. And it's interesting that in the mid-90s, during Bill Clinton's administration, the president, with his Welfare Reform Act, dedicated some money to be devoted to car sharing to provide services in areas where people needed to be able to get from their residence to where they had to work. Well, that governments are getting more and more involved, but a more recent phenomena is one that is referred to often as peer-to-peer car sharing. A company out of San Francisco called Relay Ride started in 2010, and by now they have 5,000 members. In the last couple of years, both General Motors and Google have basically invested $13 million in that operation, and I understand that Relay is interested in the LA market. Now, to talk specifically about our program here in Los Angeles, we started with very cautious steps, and that's why it's taken us 2.5 years, but we have benefited from that because we've learned that car sharing indeed in Los Angeles can be very successful. Our utilization rates are higher than most markets throughout the country. And what's more is that we have also been able to study what's happening in other cities, in other jurisdictions. And so this RFP reflects that, and it's different than how car sharing has been done in the past in 3 major ways. One, this is going to be a very goal-oriented car sharing program, what we call the LA City Public Car Share Program, in that the priority is going to be to provide car share vehicles at metro rail stations, at transit stations, to help close that gap we have between the end destination and where people can get using transit. Another difference is in the incentive program we are introducing as part of this RFP. While we are going for 300 car share programs within a 5-year period, but we are providing incentives so that if whoever gets the contract, the service provider, is able to introduce electric vehicles into the market, for every electric vehicle, we will provide them with an additional public parking space. For every 3 hybrid vehicles, we will provide them with an additional public parking space. For every, I should say 3 plug-in hybrids. For every 4 hybrid vehicles, we will give them an additional space to go up all the way to 1,000. Now, I feel and I'm optimistic that this will actually materialize because nowhere else can compare with LA in terms of the need we have for car sharing. As you know, our residents love their cars, and we've often been referred to as the car capital of the world. The fact of the matter is that if we do this right, and I'm optimistic we'll be able to do so, we'll be referred to in the future as the car share capital of the country. Thank you. I would be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you. Colleagues, as you know, we all believe in this car sharing program. It's an exciting new day in this city, and I obviously am enthused about it and want to move forward with it. But if anybody has any questions, let's start with you, Mr. Labange.
What's it cost us to do this?
It costs us nothing. This is being designed as a totally revenue-neutral program. Now, I might add that another element that makes us different than our other car share programs, indeed, we are asking whoever the provider is to share their revenues with the city, with our residents, by giving us a percentage of their revenue to be deposited into an account. We call it the car share public investment account, so that we can use it for improving sidewalks or doing street improvements in areas where car share vehicles are going to be housed. The reason for that is, as much as the public benefits of car share becomes evident once you look at it, there is always a negative impact on the residents or businesses that are immediately adjacent to where car share vehicles are going to be housed, because of course you're taking 2 car share spaces, sometimes more.
I remember when they built the El Monte busway, that was heralded the greatest thing in the world, and now we have the Expo line coming online, the extension of the Gold Line. What is the radius for a car share would be? I mean, are we competing against existing transit?
No, indeed, it will be a supplement. We're encouraging additional transit usage, and studies that have been done.
You know what I want? Who's here? Mr. De La Vega, you're here. If I want to ask you an idea here, Mr. Rosendahl is chairman. I believe in the red car taxi. A red car taxi would be a car like this that would be at a portal, and it could be an Expo line taxi or a Gold Line taxi, that it serves within 1.5 miles or 2 miles of the radius of the portal to connect people to the portal of the existing transit. So, this is an idea which I'll support because I'll have faith in Mr. Rosendahl, but I'd like to see a red car taxi on the red line or the purple line or the orange line at hubs, and you have a hub and a spoke. And then let's say you and I live, pick a neighborhood, Jaime.
Woodland Hills.
Woodland Hills. You're at the end of the line, you walk home, brother. Let's say we live in the Hollywood Hills. All right, we come in there and we live up Outpost. Well, you get off at the stop right there at Hollywood and Highland, but then there would be a red car taxi or a car that you could jump in and it could be shared when you have more people in it, and you drop you off at Outpost in Mulholland, and I get dropped off over at let's say Nichols Canyon or something. So you do it in the spread of the area. We must feed the transit system. If this feeds the transit system, then I would support it. But if it's a new type of salad, I don't know if I'd order it.
Councilman Jaime de la Vega, yes, it does feed the transit system. The long-term vision for transit stations is to have taxi stands, car share stands, and bike share stands all available next to busway and rail stations.
Mr. Weezer, you mentioned bikes, has been a leader in the revitalization of the Pueblo. We want a bike rental facility at the Pueblo. Would you work with the Pueblo and try to make that happen? Because people could come in on the trains, come into Union Station and enjoy and explore Los Angeles. Cities around the world have bike facilities there. Let's either get one there or put one in the mall, which is walking district. We must connect this stuff. So, and I say that publicly before I finish here, just so you put in the back of your mind, red car taxi. Yeah.
And can we ask the same team from DOT to prepare something similar?
Create that. They're creative.
Bikes in El Pueblo?
Yeah, bikes at El Pueblo, and the concept is a hub taxi that just works within a mile or mile and a half of the portal, where you're going to get people to come. You may walk down the hill to the subway or the major bus line, but sometimes it's tougher walking up the hill.
Okay, and when you said 300 public parking spaces, they obviously will be available to connect people from, say, a light rail to somewhere else. We're going to make them noticeable in different locations when we go forward.
Absolutely. The first priority is transit stations.
Right.
And second is high-density residential areas of the city where we have a parking congestion. We want to relieve that congestion by providing the service.
Right. So, Mr. Levine, your point is well taken.
Very good.
And I see that happening as part of the process going forward. Colleagues, please, Mr. Weezer.
One more question. We're seeking one provider?
Pardon me?
We're seeking one provider?
Yes, we're seeking
Why
one
not do
provider.
multiple providers?
Well, we thought hard and long about that part, and for one thing, we want to have a, interface that is uniform for all of our residents. Two, we want to be able to spend the least amount of city resources to be able to monitor and interact with the provider. And more importantly, perhaps, we made this RFP available for industry review, and the comments that came back to us all indicated that they'll be very hesitant to make their statistics, their numbers, their information available to competitors in the industry. So,
thank you.
Okay, everybody finished on this one? Okay. Let's move forward with this. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Unanimous. Take it to the next.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Madam Clerk, that's it? So be it. Any other public comment in the room? No public comment. This meeting is officially over. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. That's